Kia ora, annyeonghaseyo. I'm Stephen Blair, New Zealand Trade Commissioner to Korea, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Kiwi Chamber's Tech Roadshow for 2021. This is the third annual Tech Roadshow, and fantastic to have you joining us wherever you are around the world. I want to say firstly a big thank you to the Seoul Metropolitan Government and the Seoul Invest Seoul Centre for all their support for making this event happen today. As I say, it's the third roadshow. It builds on a legacy created by the late Anna Song and the likes of Lucas Beach under the leadership of Tony Garrett at the Kiwi Chamber. This year's focus is on people and the environment, and we've got some fantastic sessions over the next 2 days looking at agri-tech and ESG. And also presentations on the tech ecosystems, both here in Korea, but also in New Zealand, and how regions in New Zealand are helping foster innovation and tech startups as well. It's always a highlight to hear from our tech startups, those companies that are led by inspiring entrepreneurs with a range of technologies that they will present a little bit later on today in the program. It's a tightly packed program and certainly tightly paced as well. So feel free, if you've got any comments or questions, to fire an email to Gina Park. You will have her email address that you received through the invitation. Or if it's specific to a presenter's presentation, most of them will have their contact details at the end of their presentations, and I'm sure they would love to hear from you. So first up, we have a welcome from His Excellency Philip Turner, New Zealand Ambassador to Korea. Unfortunately for us, Philip is on holiday this week, but he has left us a video message, and so let's hear from Philip now.
Kia ora, 안녕하십니까. The New Zealand Korea Roadshow is back this year for a third time. Technology has once again brought us together and helped us overcome the barriers created by COVID. This third roadshow is a testament to both the power of technology and the importance of technology will play in the future success of both countries. Now, by participating, we hope to give you a better understanding of the opportunities in Korea for New Zealand tech firms and how these can complement your tech innovations. We were really delighted by the enormous success of the two previous roadshows. The inaugural roadshow in 2019 created strong connections between technology firms and investors and led to a number of tangible commercial outcomes. And last year's roadshow attracted over 50 participants from respective New Zealand and Korean business communities, government and academia. Now, the theme of this year's roadshow is people and environment. Now, this is fitting given that Prime Minister Ardern has described climate change as the biggest challenge of our time. Now, to help us live sustainably, both of our countries will increasingly need to turn to new and innovative technologies for answers. One example of this is agri-tech, or smart farming, as the Koreans regard it. It's a novel topic and one you might not have been thinking about with regard to Korea. But Korean smart farming is growing very quickly, driven by investment from the government and big conglomerates. This industry in Korea is forecast to grow 11% over the next 2 years to reach nearly 8 billion New Zealand dollars. With this growth, there will certainly be opportunities for New Zealand agri-tech businesses. Now, agri-tech is just one example among many. At the same time, New Zealand's tech sector is continuing to grow rapidly. In 2020, our tech sector grew by 11.4%. It now makes up 8% of New Zealand's GDP and employs 5% of our workforce. Now, that's coming from around 23,000 New Zealand companies who collectively exported $8.5 billion worth last year. The sector has also played a critical role in accelerating digitization during COVID. But as COVID has demonstrated, the tech sector is very fast moving. Competition in Korea is fierce, but there are plenty of opportunities. As in previous years, the Embassy, NZ Trade and Enterprise, and the Kiwi Chamber have made it our mission to ensure that these opportunities are being seized. So I want to thank the Seoul Metropolitan Government and Invest Seoul Centre for their strong support and sponsorship of this year's Roadshow. So what can the Korean market offer you? Well, it has consistently ranked as one of the world's most innovative countries. From 2014 to 2019, Korea took out the top spot every year in Bloomberg's Innovation Index. And this year, Korea was yet again named the most innovative country in the world. Now, this reflects very high collaboration between the government, industry, and academia, which have propelled Korea to be a leader in R&D and commercialization. And there's a very strong match between Korea's hardware capability and New Zealand's software, where our fresh ideas and creativity can complement Korea's technical expertise. Now, there are many ways in which New Zealand companies can leverage these opportunities. We already have strong collaboration in a number of areas, such as autonomous vehicles, regenerative medicine, robotics, and Antarctic research. And the participants in this year's Roadshow come from a diverse range of backgrounds, from AI through to virtual reality, biotech, edutech, online education, and e-commerce. Korea remains fertile ground for New Zealand tech companies. With the right approach and the support we have from the Kiwi Chamber, New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, the New Zealand Embassy, and the numerous businesses and startup organisations here in Korea, I believe there is no limit to what we can achieve together. Kia ora and kamsahamnida.
Oh, well, a wonderful opening remarks there from our ambassador to Korea, and again, really like to thank the Embassy for all their support across the last 3 years, especially to make the Roadshow a reality. It's a real pleasure now to introduce Dr. Tony Garrett. He's the chair of the Kiwi Chamber here in Korea, and he joins us actually live in the studio, which is fantastic to have you here, Tony. Welcome, and I'd love to hear your opening remarks and thoughts on the Roadshow.
Thank you, Stephen. He pointed to me over here. We are really, very well social distanced here at the moment. Annyeong hashimika, atamari morina, tena koto kia ora. I want to welcome you all here to the 2021 Tech Roadshow, People and the Environment. For those in New Zealand, I'm happy to see you online. I know we are all facing a challenging environment at home, particularly in New Zealand just over this last week. Oh, by the way, this is not my PowerPoints here. But I know that we are facing a challenging environment, and I hope that everyone is keeping healthy in these very strange times. But the people environment, I think, is a very poignant a topic at this particular time that's confronting with the Tech Roadshow, particularly with these new challenges facing our environment. The Kiwi Chamber, along with New Zealand NZTE, the New Zealand Embassy, plus all the other wonderful partners, have been involved in these Tech Roadshows since 2019. They've been fundamentally set about to assist New Zealand tech companies and Korean companies to come together to develop joint value with one another. As an extension of the Inspire with Innovation series that the Chamber initiated a number of years ago to highlight the success of New Zealand enterprise in the Korean market, with the objective to foster deeper and richer commercial relationships between the two countries. With the Tech Roadshow's emphasis on agri-tech and sustainability, we are very much looking forward to an exciting event this year. I would like to thank Ambassador Turner for highlighting the New Zealand success stories in Korea. These successful enterprises not only highlight the opportunities of the Korean market, but also are helping move the New Zealand brand image into new directions. It's an image that us as Kiwis probably already know. Our ability to be creative, to come up with novel solutions, being leaders, winners, not letting our relative size be a hindrance. We punch well above our weight. We already know this, but we are now telling the world, and we're really waving our flag very, very high, and particularly in the Korean market. And we are looking for specific partners to help us achieve this and to tell everyone, this is us, this is our image, this is the image of New Zealand that we're taking forward. There are a lot of parallels between Korea and New Zealand. Innovation and human capital are the key drivers of Korean success. Korea's driven to be the best. I think Ambassador Turner highlighted the fact that it's been ranked #1 in innovation for so many, many years. And they realize that they will not be doing this alone. They also punch well above their weight. They want to buy from and work with partners who have new technologies, new value, and new ways of thinking. They are actively looking for partners to work with, but only those who share their quest for excellence and leadership. They want to be a winning team. And there is a real synergy between New Zealand companies, the ones that are represented in this forum this week and who have been involved with us over the last 2 years, and those in the future, and those with enterprises here in Korea. It's not going to be easy though. Although New Zealand starts from a very good place, there are many other countries aggressively wanting to exploit the opportunities of the Korean market and the enterprises that are operating here within Korea. And they are looking to develop relationships with Korean organizations. We see the likes of many great multinationals who've come up to Korea and are actually using the Korean market as a test market in many cases before they take on their opportunities in the rest of Asia. If they crack the Korean market, in many cases they're absolutely correct here, if they crack the Korean market, they know that they're likely to have much more success in other parts of Asia. This is a tough market, but it is an exciting market. Our job in the Chamber and with our partners is to provide initiatives such as this Roadshow, which allows you the chance to highlight our and your points of difference. Us to present you with the opportunities in this exciting dynamic market and introduce you to partners who want to win together. So therefore, without any more ado, because after all there's a much more exciting speakers than me to talk to today, I would like to thank the sponsors and supporters of this event, without whom this event would not happen. Specifically, I would like to thank the Seoul Metropolitan Government. Thank you, Mayor O.C. Hoon, and all your help there. And we have a representative in the room today from the Seoul Metropolitan Government. The Invest Seoul Centre. Thank you very much, Mr. Jung Jae-uk. I found out that I work for Korea University. He was an alumni for us, so hopefully that connection and that network will assist us a little bit further today. The New Zealand Embassy, Ambassador Turner, New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, Stephen, the Korean Ministry of Science and ICT, SK Telecom, Born to Global, Uni Services, University of Auckland, Great South, Priority One Tauranga Moana, Callaghan Innovation, NZBC, New Zealand Business Council, Agritech New Zealand, and CAPE, the Centre of Asia and Pacific Excellence, North Asia. I would like to specifically highlight the leadership of Jenna Park and Stephen Blair. Thank you. And of course, there are numerous other individuals that we can also thank to make this and bring this event together today. This is a wonderful occasion, and I look forward to the hearing from the inspiring presentations over the next 2 days. Thank you again. And of course, we have the wonderful speakers. Thank you, speakers, for taking up your time to share your expertise and your initiatives to take New Zealand tech companies and develop those relationships further. Kamsahamnida, namahadarika kuyora. And by the way, I hope that one day we'll see you in Korea again very, very soon. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Tony, and I really appreciate all your leadership at the Kiwi Chamber. I think the Chamber, the Embassy and NZTE form a great partnership here in Seoul, and we're bigger and better together. We are now privileged to have a message directly from the Mayor of Seoul, Mr. Sohee Poon, and absolute honour to have him address us and welcome us, and looking forward to his messages now.
반갑습니다. 서울시장 오세훈입니다. 한국 뉴질랜드 테크로드쇼 개막을 진심으로 축하드립니다. 세계 기술 산업의 성장을 리드하고 있는 한국과 뉴질랜드, 양국의 우수한 투자 환경과 창업 생태계를 공유하고 유망 기술 기업들의 교류와 협력을 강화하는 매우 뜻깊은 계기가 마련이 돼서 참으로 기쁘게 생각합니다. 귀한 자리를 마련해 주신 필립 터너 주한 뉴질랜드 대사님과 뉴질랜드 상공회의소 토니 가렛 회장님, 그리고 뉴질랜드 무역산업진흥청 스티븐 블레어 상무 참사관님, 그리고 테크로드쇼에 참가해 주신 서울시와 뉴질랜드 테크기업 관계자 여러분께 감사의 인사를 올립니다. 코로나19 팬데믹은 우리의 일상과 산업환경 전반을 크게 바꿔놓고 있습니다. 비대면이 일상이 되고 그에 따라서 4차 산업혁명이 가속화되면서 IoT, AI, VR 등 혁신적인 기술을 접목한 기술기업들이 가파르게 성장하고 있습니다. 그동안 서울과 뉴질랜드는 기술 혁신을 통한 신사업 개발과 창업 지원을 위해서 많은 노력을 기울여 왔습니다. 그리고 이제 더 큰 도약을 위해서 함께 나아가야 합니다. 서울시는 서울로 진출하는 해외 기업과 투자를 유치하기 위해서 투자관리 전담 조직을 설립하고 서울형 규제개혁을 추진해서 기업하기 좋은 도시를 만들어 나갈 계획입니다. 이를 통해서 미래 산업이 더 크게 성장하고 우리 기업의 해외 진출을 위한 투자로도 이어질 수 있도록 적극 지원하겠습니다. 이번 행사가 서울과 뉴질랜드의 기술 기업들이 양국을 넘어서서 세계로 뻗어나가는 발판이 되기를 바라면서 무궁무진한 잠재력과 기회의 도시 서울에서 앞으로 더 많은 뉴질랜드 기업인 여러분들을 만나 뵐 수 있게 되기를 기대하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Well, fantastic to have such a warm welcome there from Mayor O. And, you know, sitting here in Seoul, one of the most amazing and dynamic cities in the world, to have an introduction like that is certainly a privilege. It's now my absolute honour to invite the head of the Invest Seoul Centre, Mr. Jae-wook Jung, to join us. He's going to give a presentation, a short video to start off with, and a presentation that looks at the environment here and the investment environment in Seoul, and talk about the work of the Invest Seoul Centre. I wanted to say to Mr. Jung, thank you so much for all your support. The support of your team and your leadership has been fantastic to get us to this point. Looking forward to your presentation. Thank you very much.
창업 지원 경험이 있어서 외국인 투자 유치를 위한 노하우가 풍부하고 외국인들이 원하는 정보와 안정적인 서비스 제공이 가능합니다. 안녕하세요. 인베스트 서울센터의 센터장 정재욱입니다. 인베스트 서울센터는 서울에 투자하려고 하는 외국인들의 모든 과정을 지원하는 외국인 직접 투자 유치 전담 기관입니다. 인베스트 서울센터는 서울시와 서울산업진흥원이 운영하고 있어서 서울의 중소기업 및 스타트업 관련 데이터베이스와 네트워크를 가장 많이 보유하고 있습니다. 계속해서 변화하는 투자 환경을 연구하고 이에 대응하는 방안을 도출하기 위해서 노력하고 있습니다. 또한 서울시가 중점을 두고 있는 AI, 바이오, 정보통신, 핀테크 등의 이른바 신성장 산업의 외국인 투자 유치에 주력하고자 합니다. 서울에 투자하려고 하는 개인 및 기업들에게 서울의 산업, 기업들을 홍보하고 매칭해주는 그런 역할들을 하려고 노력하고 있습니다. 서울시에 투자하려고 하는 모든 외국 기업에게 전 과정에서 저희가 필요한 정보와 서비스를 제공할 준비가 되어 있으니까 언제든지 편안하게 저희 인베스트 서울센터를 찾아주시기 바랍니다.
Thank you, Stephen, and thanks, Tony. Kia ora. I'm Jae-wook Jung, head of Invest Seoul Center, which is an investment promotion agency on behalf of the city of Seoul. Even though this is online, it's a great honor and pleasure to meet you through Tech Roadshow. Today, I will introduce you to Seoul's business environment and services, what it provides for international investors and entrepreneurs. According to 2021 Bloomberg Innovation Index, Korea has been named the most innovative country in the world for the 8th consecutive years. And based on European Innovation Scoreboard, Korea is the more innovative country than most of advanced countries in the world. The city of Seoul won the Urban Award at the 2019 Smart City Expo World Congress in Barcelona, the world's largest smart city international event. Also, Seoul is well known as the best e-government for many years. These are possible since 99.5% of population access the internet at home, and 95% of the population has smartphones. This is much higher than in other countries, and all ages are very used to social medias. And Korea is famous of high education and talented people. About 70% of population has college degree or more. And more than 35% of R&D personnel have a master's degree or higher. And do you know the fact that Korea is the highest R&D investment country in the world compared to GDP? The city of Seoul has various industry clusters to boost industries and companies from media to bio. DMC, the media and digital clusters, Magok, the high-tech and R&D cluster, G-Valley, the IoT cluster, Hongneung, the bio cluster, Yangjae, AI and big data clusters. According to the 2020 Global Startup Ecosystem report, it was ranked 20th among 270 cities in the global startup ecosystem. In addition, it attracted 4,000 investment totaling $390 million from venture capital in 2020. As of February 2021, more than 10,000 startups and venture capital companies are registered in Seoul. Looking at the industrial field, software field has the most with more than 43%, followed by manufacturing with 27.4%, and followed by wholesale and retail and R&D. The city of Seoul is equipped with incubating makerspace and 42 various facilities to support startups. The comprehensive incubating facilities includes business clusters of bio, AI hubs, fintech labs, and global startup support center for international startups. To accelerate the growth of the startups, the Seoul Metropolitan Government formed the $1 billion Seoul Future Growth Fund in 2018, and it passed over $2 billion as of February 2021. And we have 15 unicorns in Korea so far, and 13 of 15 are located in the city of Seoul. Now let's talk a little bit about the Invest Seoul Center. ISC, Invest Seoul Center, was opened at January last year with the coordination of Seoul Metropolitan Government to meet the vision of developing Seoul as one of Asia's leading global business centers. First of all, Invest Seoul Center operates business tour programs for potential foreign investors who are looking for business chances in Seoul. This program includes visits to major industrial clusters in Seoul and meetings with domestic entrepreneurs and investors and industry specialists. It is totally customized for those who are not familiar with the business environment in Seoul, and our one-on-one business matching programs help foreign entrepreneurs engage in the Korean market and find key local partners. For entrepreneurs who are serious about making a direct investment in Seoul, we provide in-depth consultations. We offer comprehensive professional assistance in areas of investment declaration, corporate establishment, and business registration, visas, taxes, intellectual property protection, and customs clearance, and etc. In addition to this business-related support, Invest Seoul Center provides practical stay-in services, such as settle-down support program, helping housing purchase or leasing, school admission for children, opening bank accounts, and mobile phone services, and internet connections. We also make policy suggestions to central government to promote more foreign direct investment by collecting the requests of foreign companies in terms of the improvement of the regulations. And for startups in Seoul to encourage global advancement, we are helping them to participate global conference or IR, have opportunities to get global networks, and meet global investors. So for international entrepreneurs interested in doing business in Seoul, Invest Seoul Center is the very first place to contact. So when you consider any kind of business in Seoul, please remember ISC, Invest Seoul Center. I do hope these difficult times will be over as soon as possible, and finally we'll be able to meet you all in person. Until then, please stay safe and healthy. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jung. And I think the partnership that we've formed is testament to the ease of doing business here in Korea and in Seoul in particular. As Mr. Jung indicated, Seoul has a highly educated population, incredibly well connected, and in my sort of experience as well, Korea initially was seen as a place that was difficult to do business in, but the Seoul Investment Centre and the Seoul Metropolitan Government certainly does make it easy to do business here. Language isn't necessarily a barrier. Mr. Jung spoke perfectly there in English, and there is a really vibrant tech ecosystem here supported by the Seoul Metropolitan Government and the Invest Seoul Centre, so a great place for startups to do business. Once again, thank you so much for your presentation and your support of the event. We're going to switch gears now just for a moment. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and during that break you'll get a fantastic video which highlights New Zealand's tech and innovation achievements and ecosystem. And then when we come back, we're going to hear from Peter Wren Hilton, who is the head of Global Alliances for Agritech New Zealand, and we'll delve a little bit deeper into Agritech, the opportunities here in Korea and New Zealand's expertise. So we'll see you back in about 5 minutes.
New Zealand has so many gifts to the world. If you talk to anybody who's been there, it's a magical place.
I just love flying in and seeing how green the place is. It just takes me all the way back to my childhood.
We're not just a country of beautiful mountains, we're so much more than that. Historically, we've just done things that other countries haven't done before.
New Zealand is a great place to make things, to initiate ideas.
And to take those ideas and share them with the world drives a huge part of the New Zealand culture.
We have ingenuity that allows us to be creative and bring it to the world with limited resources, and we do that here in New Zealand all the time.
We're launching rockets in New Zealand. How cool is that?
Right now in the world, there's 2 companies delivering satellites to orbit, Elon Musk and SpaceX, and there's Rocket Lab.
New Zealand is right in there. The capability they've created is paradigm breaking.
And it's all happening out of Mahia, New Zealand.
New Zealand brings together both technology and creativity, and that's why we're so good at innovating.
You know, a lot of people, when you say creative, they think arts. But you can create in engineering. You create things where there was nothing, and that's an incredible thrill.
And at Google, we love Kiwis because Kiwis come up with ways to solve problems in ways that people from other places wouldn't necessarily even attempt.
Best in the world at producing eccentric inventors. The whole America's Cup thing, There's a guy up in Warkworth that had the idea of turning the centerboards into hydrofoils, and look at them now.
We think outside the box and then just get on with it.
And if we don't know how to do it, we figure it out.
You're looking for people who are just going to make things happen. New Zealand research on information retrieval was one of the core pieces that made Google successful.
And New Zealanders solve huge global healthcare problems.
We have some of the best doctors in the world. I should know.
We do extraordinary things on the world stage around healthcare. We're arguably the cleverest country on the planet.
We have very talented people who succeed in many technologies, whether it's marine, screen, software, we innovate.
Technology is soaring there. Look at the movies they make.
Warner Brothers invested in New Zealand because New Zealand's reputation is second to none. We're the best content on the planet.
They do the best visual effects ever.
The world has got a lot to learn from New Zealand in terms of the way that we invent technologies and look after each other as well. And that's what makes us different, I think.
We have a collective responsibility to our land and to our future generations, which in Māori we call kaitiakitanga.
We're on a mission to make better things in a better way and tread more lightly in the way that we make products, to be thoughtful about the environment.
And when you think about the power that a small country can have in influencing the rest of the world, I think New Zealand does sit there.
We dare to dream. Everybody has belief that they can change the world, because we have, and we will continue to do so.
Welcome to the country of open spaces. Where nature bursts and flows. Where the elements come alive. Where there is room to breathe. Places to find. Welcome to the country of open hearts. Where care for the land and people is genuine. Where life is for living. Where time spent together is never time wasted. Where lasting partnerships are formed where strangers are treated as friends. And memories are treasured forever. Welcome to the country of open minds.
Well, welcome back. Geez, those are fantastic videos, and certainly makes me feel a little bit homesick and immensely proud to be a New Zealander. One of the areas that New Zealand leads the world in is agritech. It's, I guess, born out of and works in collaboration with our fantastic agricultural sector back in New Zealand. Agritech New Zealand was established a few years back by Peter Wren-Hilton, who also joins us today in his role as Head of Global Alliances for Agritech New Zealand. He's going to talk around agritech transformation. It's a fantastic field. Peter is genuinely a world-class expert in this area. He's asked to speak all across the world. He holds many, many hats in terms of his investment work, but also his role in agritech globally. So it's an absolute pleasure to have Peter on the line from New Zealand, from Tauranga, my hometown. So welcome, Peter.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stephen, first of all, for that introduction. Just to confirm, I am currently based in Tauranga, speaking from my home in the beautiful Bay of Plenty. And the great thing about the Bay of Plenty is that I'm surrounded by amazing kiwi fruit orchards. So a lot of the great produce that we export is actually produced very close to where I live. But it's not just the production of fruit that's of interest to me, it's also the technology that makes that possible. And so Tauranga is also home to Zespri, the Kiwi marketing group, and also a number of early stage startup companies, agritech startup companies like Robotics Plus, Blue Lab, Trimax, Cucumber. And it's that combination of agri-technology that is helping New Zealand develop, I believe, even more high premium produce. And it's really around that scope that I want to talk today. But of course, agri-tech is nothing new to New Zealand. Let's go back to 1882. So Queen Victoria was currently the Queen of England, and I guess Queen of New Zealand at the time. And that was when New Zealand basically gave the first example of refrigerated shipping. Refrigerated shipping enabled New Zealand to export its lamb meat in particular up to the United Kingdom. And then since then, we've seen a number of other key developments based in New Zealand, which have now impacted on the rest of the world. So in the 20th century, we saw the development of electric fences. We saw the development of the milk meter. We've seen improved grass cultivators and selective breeding techniques for livestock. And this increasing understanding of genetics has enabled New Zealand to produce higher productivity and help the food and fibre sector to become such a key part of New Zealand's economy. And today, New Zealand continues to invest significant amounts of dollars into agricultural research and science to further improve this opportunity. But from my perspective, agritech really began to transform as recently as 5 years ago. As Stephen said, I was fortunate to be in a position to actually help found Agritech New Zealand. And I think the two key catalysts for that transformation were as follows. The first was the creation of Agritech New Zealand. Until a few years ago, agritech in New Zealand was quite a fragmented sector. I was actually in 2015 based in Silicon Valley, and I could see an incremental increase of investment going into this new asset class called agtech, but realized very little was coming across the Pacific to either New Zealand or Australia, to our part of the world. I returned to New Zealand in 2015 and very quickly understood some of the challenges. By 2018, we'd addressed a number of those challenges. And so today, Agritech New Zealand is a reasonably significant industry body, representing a range of stakeholders. So our major agribusinesses, our startup community, investors, researchers, government, and a number of what I call support organizations. Those might include banks, those include consultancies, etc. So as an organization, it's now managed to pull together a wide group of stakeholders rather, with a common interest. What that industry body was able to do 3 years ago, we were able to sit down with government at a time when the New Zealand government had prioritized agritech as being a focus sector for the future. And at the back end of 2020, they began to, I apologize, at the back end of 2019, I've lost a year with COVID, but with 2019, they announced the launch of the Agritech Industry Transformation Plan. And that was a first for government. It actually saw a number of government agencies working together around a single sector. And so what we found with the Agritech Industry Transformation Plan is New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, Callaghan Innovation, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, what was then called the New Zealand Venture Investment Fund, and others, Ministry of Primary Industries, got together to work on a series of priorities for the growth of the agritech sector. And that transformation plan was launched officially, ironically, here in Tauranga in July last year by Ministers Damien O'Connor and Phil Twyford. And what that transformation plan has, and this is where I think it's relevant for this audience, is 6 particular work streams. Those work streams were as follows. The first was a global work stream, and the global work stream was really designed to identify ways and routes in which New Zealand's agritech sector could begin to engage with other offshore ecosystems. And I think this is of particular interest today in terms of this conversation with Korea, to know that there is this facility in place within the Agritech Industry Transformation Plan to create new partnerships and collaborative opportunities offshore. The second work stream was around commercialization. As I said, New Zealand has a fantastic reputation for the quality of its science and research around agriculture. We have some outstanding Crown Research Institutes like Ag Research, Plant and Food Research, Land Care, and then a series of universities. And I know Will Charles is on here from Uniservices, representing the University of Auckland, but we've got other universities, including Otago, Massey, Waikato, and they produce great science and research. And what the commercialization work stream of the ITP, that's the Industry Transformation Plan in short, I was once told by the head of that task force that if you want to sound cool in Wellington, talk about ITPs. So that's the Industry Transformation Plan. But what the commercialization work stream is designed to do is to support those research organizations, turn that science into products which can help farmers and growers deliver better results. And that's why it's called the commercialization work stream. The third work stream was around investment. New Zealand traditionally has had a pretty light investment market in terms of our capital markets, but I'm pleased to say that that has also changed dramatically in the last 3 to 5 years. We have a number of venture funds now which simply didn't exist 3 to 5 years ago, and as recently as last year, a dedicated venture fund for agritech was established in Palmerston North, and that was supported out of San Diego in the United States by Finisterre Ventures. And so we do now have a very active investment market, and that's really important for our early stage companies that want to scale. I remember speaking to Bill Reichart, the founder of Garage Ventures a few years ago, when he said to me, he said, Peter, starting a startup has never been cheaper. Building a scale-up has never been more expensive. And I think that's what we've seen. The unicorns that were referred to previously by the head of the Invest Soul, to actually build a unicorn today requires a lot of investment. And New Zealand now fortunately has more of that investment. But we never say it's enough. So we're always looking for offshore investment partners. The fourth area of the ITP was around data standards and regulation. And again, this is an area where New Zealand is trying to work with other parties around the world to ensure that we set a standard set of data standards and regulatory environments so that farmers and growers are able to compare apples with apples, as opposed to often facing a challenging environment of finding standards in one country differ from those of another. The fifth work stream is around skills and training. And at 6:30 this morning, I was speaking to colleagues in Northern California at Western Growers, who are actually about to host a 2-day meeting on skills and training, because we were looking at the farm of the future. And the farm of the future is going to be very much digitally managed. And so we need to ensure that we have a workforce that is able to operate within that digital environment. And then the final area of the Agritech ITP was around the role of government. And I think what's been really, from my perspective, looking at it from an industry and a startup perspective, is to see how industry, or rather government agencies, are systematically now working together around some of the challenges that farmers and growers face. So I think those are the 6 key elements of that transformation plan. And it's been wholly supported and endorsed by the sector. It's operational because Agritech New Zealand is taking a very strong partnership role with government. And I think we'll see some ongoing benefits for that. The final thing I would say on the ITP is it did contain 2 specific high impact projects. The first is around the development of a robotics catalyst in New Zealand. And what that is seeking to do is to see how we can potentially automate more work, particularly in the horticultural sector, where very often labour shortages create huge issues for growers. So that's one of the 2 high impact projects. The second is Farm 2050 Nutrient Initiative. And this is basically a project to define or determine whether we can identify more disruptive alternatives to traditional nutrients. And that's engaging a number of players from offshore who are coming to use New Zealand as a test bed to really trial some of those technologies to see whether or not we're able to mitigate against some of the environmental impact, in particular of the use of things like fertilizers, chemical fertilizers, and other nutrient additives. So that's really a kind of quick summary of that Agritech ITP. But what it has done is created new opportunities for collaboration, I think, between New Zealand and Korea. We've already heard from Stephen and other speakers, and I know we'll be hearing from more speakers over the next 2 days, how New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, MFAT, Callaghan Innovation, and Agritech New Zealand are working together to build those partnerships. And so, speaking on behalf of Agritech New Zealand, if there are any agritech companies, if there are any government partners, incubator partners in Korea who want to connect with industry in New Zealand, then feel free to contact me either during or after this particular summit. I'd be delighted to provide whatever introductions I can to the relevant parties here in New Zealand, particularly on that industry side. The final thing I'm going to talk about is an upcoming example of a summit where I believe Korea could play a role. And again, this is something that I happen to be directly involved with. In April next year, New Zealand will be hosting the 2035 Oceania Summit. This is really a follow-up to the COP26 United Nations Climate Conference taking place in Glasgow in November. And what it's designed to do is to identify and showcase technologies that will help farmers and growers reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but also identify technologies that will assist farmers and growers develop new, more resilient plant and crop type systems to mitigate a changing climate. The one thing that we always know when we talk about agritech is we have that impending date of 2050 when we'll have 9.7 billion people on Earth. That means producing 40% more food produce than we currently produce. But at a time of changing climate, at a time when soils are being impacted, the need to actually understand how technology can assist farmers and growers worldwide at that point is critical. And so the 2035 Oceania Summit is taking place in Auckland in April 2022. And again, I would use this platform really to invite any Korean companies that want to, or either want to work in this space or are working in this space, to participate in that summit. You'd be most welcome to come to New Zealand and take part in that conference. So again, I think that possibly, again, just impacts on where New Zealand currently thinks. We're not just about volume, we're also about value of our food production, but also really about taking care of the environment in which we live. I think that, again, is a really important aspect to understand. When we talk about agritech, we're not simply talking about increasing production, we're talking about increasing production in very, very sustainable ways to protect that environment, not just for our generation, but for future generations. And I hope, Stephen, that provides a bit of a high-level overview of some of the opportunities that I see existing here in New Zealand today. And really, I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to share some of those thoughts with today's audience.
Thank you so much, Peter. Fantastic to have you as part of the roadshow here. I think what you demonstrated is that New Zealand's agricultural and agri-tech expertise doesn't just happen by accident. You know, it's systematic, it's well supported across government and industry, and well led. And I think it really does fit with those current issues, but also future challenges. As you were saying, a world population that will be closing on 10 billion in the very near future. Thanks once again also for the invitation for the 2035 Oceania Summit. I'd really encourage people to get in touch with Peter to see how you can be part of that, and you know, the areas that you're looking at in that summit around technology that reduces greenhouse emissions and also enhancing resilience, I think is very, very timely. What we thought we would do for the next sort of 10 minutes or so is take what we've heard from Peter and put that into a context around the Korean market opportunities. I think what you're seeing there is my background slide. So what I'll fire up now is a presentation that just talks a little bit around what the opportunities are for New Zealand agri-tech here in Korea. So a couple of things that I wanted to do was just paint a picture around consumer demand, what we're seeing here in the market at the moment, some of the pain points that I think that New Zealand agri-tech can address, some strategic considerations, and some examples around where New Zealand companies are really succeeding here in the market. First of all, you know, there's a real change in consumer preference here. There's a rise in protein consumption, so more dairy is actually consumed in Korea now than rice. But also on-demand and convenient food is more and more demanded by consumers. The photo that you see there is actually in my local metro station, so railway station. This is a small vertical farm that's growing salad, and on the right there is actually the vending machine. So somebody comes and picks the leaves a couple of times a day, puts it in a plastic container, and you can purchase it through the vending machine. Home meal replacements as well are on the rise. So 1/3 of all Korean households are single person, and so that convenience, the smaller portion sizes, is more and more demanded. So what are the sort of areas where New Zealand agri-tech can work on? As Peter said, workforce and labour shortages are certainly an area of interest and a pain point here in Korea. So there is a ageing farmer population, and so the need to transfer skills between older farmers and younger farmers is an area for us to consider. Smaller scale growers, so more than 60% of all the farms here are actually less than 1 hectare, and you can see on the right those photos there. It's a photo that I took while I was just out of town. That's a farmer ploughing a field with a cow. So it's a difficult small plot of land. So there is still traditional farming techniques that are applied on farm here. So with smaller farms, obviously enhancing the yield that you can get from a small farm. For some farmers, we need to align the business strategy with government priorities, so there still are a considerable number of government subsidies and support for farmers here, so looking for opportunities in that space. Value chain optimization means that everything that's produced on a Korean farm is precious, and so enhancing the value chain and the supply chain, so everything produced when it hits the shelves of a supermarket or a market, it's in the best possible quality, and so that means around logistics, packaging, and enhancing shelf life. And much like the rest of the world, Korea is facing ongoing severe weather incidents, more typhoons, more extreme weather. So the challenge, if I could sum it up in a couple of graphs here, is that Korea now has less than 50% of its food that it consumes grown locally. And the proportion of the farm population as it ages is getting less and less. So smaller farms, smaller farm population, and less food produced here. So some of the things that New Zealand companies should consider, certainly localising the product and the marketing for specifically for this market. Farmers demand after-sales service, and so the ability to not only sell the product or service, but also follow that through with ongoing support. Given the size of farms and also, I suppose, the role of government here in terms of subsidies, aligning the business model to that and thinking about alternative pricing structures that might amortise a high upfront cost. There certainly are the opportunity to partner here, and complementary partners could be identified and working together across different verticals. And thinking beyond the farm gate, certainly New Zealand has fantastic on-farm technology, but some of those pain points that I painted there before were around the value chain, the supply chain, enhancing the packaging and shelf life, and areas, as Peter pointed out as well, around climate change and resilience as well. Just thinking about this market, the first place to start, especially putting a farmer or producer's hat on, is it going to make me money or is it going to save me money? So having a value proposition that really understands what's important to a farmer or a producer here. Certainly knowing your audience, and so the agricultural sector here has a number of players. There are gatekeepers, so there are large co-ops and industry associations that represent farmers, and so understanding who actually is a gatekeeper in this market. The government does play a significant role with government subsidies and support, so they are a funder. Some of the key decision makers aren't necessarily the farmers. The farmer and the farm owner may be different, but the farmer will certainly be the end user in many cases. The New Zealand brand is strong, and Peter talked about our history and our background in agriculture and agri-tech, and so agri-tech here is a natural fit. It's not a big leap to draw from New Zealand's expertise and find produce to the agri-tech that supports that. And I think the size of the market as well is a suitable scale. So Korea is a country of about 50 million people, a land mass about a third of the size of New Zealand, so certainly a chewable chunk. I thought I'd finish off with a couple of really good examples where I think that highlights New Zealand technology and how it's being applied here in Korea. The first is GBS, a fantastic New Zealand company that does geospatial mapping, gathers a lot of data, crunches it together, and what they've done is they work with KBS, the Korean Broadcasting Service, around mapping typhoons, as well as the ability to map fine dust and pollution in Korea. Now, this enables farmers and other citizens to understand where a severe weather event is tracking, and to prepare themselves for that. And so maybe not what you would think initially as agri-tech, but the application of technology to help farmers better plan and better understand severe weather incidents. And here last year we had 14 typhoons hit the peninsula, so it's more and more of an issue as we go forward. Second example I would draw was for Gallagher, so they are well known in New Zealand for electric fences, but in Korea electric fencing is used differently. So in New Zealand we use electric fences to keep stock into a paddock, so cows from wandering out of a paddock. In Korea, electric fences are used to keep wildlife out of crops, and so therefore the functionality needs to be different. These need to be powered up during the night when the wildlife is out, and powered down during the day. And so Gallagher has developed systems that enable that, so specifically for this market, and then marketing material to support that. So a real, I think, example of made for Korea, understanding what the market demands and needs, and then developing a technology for that. So finally, just wrapping up, in terms of a path to market, how would you enter the New Zealand, the Korean market from New Zealand? Certainly the role of NZTE, and we've also talked about the Kiwi Chamber as well, is to identify those opportunities in market, understand who the players are, and educate you and help with our market insights. I think a traditional approach here is around partnering with local companies, and that can help with the product localization, taking your technology and understanding how it would fit and be made for Korea. Younger and younger farmers are certainly interested in technology, and there is, the role of influencers within the younger farm group. It is small, but it is growing, and so the use of YouTube, for example, is quite prevalent with younger farmers. The Korean government is investing a considerable amount of money into smart farm projects, and so I think those are opportunities for New Zealand technology to play a part in that as well. And in practice improvement, so not only just the technology and the hardware as well, is that knowledge transfer and exchange. So I mentioned the ability to transfer knowledge between older farmers and younger farmers, and certainly in training and in consultation services as well. So hopefully that paints a picture of not only the work that's going on back in New Zealand and the great work that Agritech New Zealand that was established by Peter Wren Hilton, who we heard from just before, and now he's head of Global Alliances, but how that technology can be applied here in Korea. And I think also the ability to think more broadly, that it isn't just on farm, that this is throughout the supply chain and value chain as well. We've got some resources on the NZTE website that talks more around agri-tech as well, so please check those out. So this is an opportunity now for us to switch gears again, and the part of the day that I'm really looking forward to, which is hearing from 7 New Zealand tech companies who have been participating and working with the Invest Seoul Centre and NZTE here in Korea. Through that, there have been 9 partnership meetings with Korean companies, and Gina Park has been working with these companies to introduce them to Korean startups, to large corporates such as LG Electronics, to a number of hospitals as potential clients. And other partnership meetings are continuing. So I'd like to thank Gina for all her work in this area, but also our friends at the Invest Seoul Centre for making this work. So we have 7 New Zealand companies now that will give a presentation. I'm really looking forward to a range of technology that will be on show here. So first up, and I hope they're on the line, I'm sure they are, is Elementary. They're a wearable device company, and so looking forward. And here we are live from New Zealand. Great to have you on the call. Over to you.
Hi, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Haniki, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Elementary, which is a wearable medical device. Elementary stands for elementary telemetry, elementary meaning the word gut, and telemetry is obviously remote monitoring. So it is my pleasure today to introduce you to our company. So I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation. I hope you can all see the screen from here. I think it's working. So if you like, I want to introduce what Elementary does. And we diagnose dysfunction diseases of the stomach. What are the dysfunction diseases is more to do with the software rather than the hardware. And these diseases are quite prevalent. So 1 in 5 people suffer from chronic gastric symptoms. These are diseases that cannot be picked up with technology like endoscopy. Endoscopy and all the imaging techniques can pick up what we call the hardware issues, if you like, when they actually see ulcers, cancers, or other abnormalities that are visible to the eye, whereas the dysfunction diseases have symptoms like pain, heartburn, bloating, vomiting, and nausea that are not visible through imaging techniques. In the US alone, about 40 million people suffer from gastric dyspepsia, which is like a symptoms of heartburn, and the market size or the market burden of these diseases are vast. The stomach muscle works very much like the heart muscle, and it has a similar electrical activity, except the heart has been studied, and we know that the diagnostics for the heart are quite advanced, unlike the stomach, which today is quite inefficient and symptom-based. And it's basically the patient referring to the gastroenterologist or your primary care physician, and they would go ahead with the treatment based on the symptoms that the patient presents with. So it's very symptom-based, and most often than not, it's inconclusive because these are not diseases that can be picked up by the current methodology that is available in the market. Until now, so the two co-founders of the company, Professor Gregor Grady and Armin Garabin. So Greg is a colorectal surgeon, and he's been studying this for over the last decade, and he has got extensive knowledge in this area. What he started doing was actually when he was doing surgery, he used to put electrodes directly on the stomach and picking up this electrical activity from the stomach that would help in terms of diagnosing the diseases. Armin and Greg joined forces, and Armin was able to show and published a paper in 2019 showing that this electrical activity can in fact be picked up from the surface of the skin or the surface of the stomach. And that led to us developing a gastric elementary device, which is a wearable medical device. And if you like, it functions such as a ECG for the stomach. In order for me to show what the device does, I would like to share with you a video that can do that much better than I can explain it. So if you bear with me for a second, I'll just put this on. This is a minute video and it will go through how the technology works.
The gastric allimetry system is designed to collect data by non-invasively sensing the activity of the stomach from the body surface. A standard test takes around 5 hours to complete. First, your patient arrives for their test, fasted, and an adhesive array is applied to the abdomen. Your patient sits comfortably for 30 minutes while the system takes a baseline recording of the stomach's electrical activity. Next, the patient consumes a meal to stimulate the stomach, followed by a post-meal recording of 4 hours, the time it takes for the stomach to break down and empty a meal. Throughout the test, the patient logs their symptoms into the gastric allimetry app. Once the test is completed, the array is removed and disposed of, while the reader and dock are cleaned and disinfected for reuse. Data from the reader and the app are uploaded together to the allimetry cloud in order to generate a report for the responsible physician.
As you saw, the diagnosis takes place after the test has been conducted, and it takes about 4 hours to run through the test, which is one cycle of stomach emptying. There's 4 parts to the technology. There's a single-use or disposable array, which is a conformable, stretchable electronics, which is quite a complicated process to get this made and printed. And each one of those silver dots is actually an electrode that sits on top of the stomach, so that we can make sure, because everyone's stomach is slightly in a different place, and the size of the array allows for that stomach to be picked up and the array to sit comfortably on top of that. The reader, which is the hardware, collects all that data and then transmits it up to the allimetry cloud. The app has multiple functions, so it helps the clinician to set up the device, as well as the patient is able to record their symptoms during the duration of that test. If they experience an event like a vomit, or they feel nauseated, or they feel pain, they can record that for real time. At the end, both the subjective measure collected from the patient and the objective measure coming from the device would be collated into the cloud. The algorithm sits in the cloud and runs on top of the data, and then it comes up with the report for the clinician. I won't go through this any further than the video explained, but the clinician can then use the report as one of the data points that they have, along with other data points that they've collected with the patient, to allow them to make a diagnosis for that patient. Today, in the absence of this technology, the diagnostic procedures can go up for like 6 to 12 months, sometimes years, and they are non-conclusive because it's more of a trial and error with the patient. This is just showing how the app helps with the setup phase and then carries on through to the patient symptom gathering and then report for the clinician, which gives them the subjective measures as well, so they know how the patient was doing throughout the test. Now, if the patient, if the gastric allimetry is normal, it is quite an interesting point to know. Today, there is no, in the absence of knowing whether the stomach is working correctly or not, the physicians tend to do a lot of, again, trial and error therapy with the stomach, versus we can actually now say whether the stomach is normal, in which case there might be other underlying causes for the same symptoms, and they can either be gone through the organic pathology, or a lot of the time it can potentially be from a health psychology issue. So a lot of patients with stress may also have the same symptoms. If the gastric allimetry is positive, so we can actually see that there is an abnormality with the stomach, depending on how that abnormality is manifested, which we call them different phenotypes, then this allows the clinician to actually target therapy to exactly what that is. And a couple of examples for that is that maybe the stomach is pumping normally, however, there's a closure at the end of the stomach, so they can actually use specific targeted therapy to loosen the pylorus, and that would allow the food to travel through. Or sometimes the stomach is not pumping correctly or pumping the wrong direction, and each of those have a specific treatment that could shorten that diagnostic pathway and allow the procedure, the targeted treatment to happen accordingly. So the value proposition for the clinician is quite vast, is that it's kind of speeds up that procedure of diagnostics, and it allows the patients to understand what's the underlying cause for their symptoms. The symptoms, as I'm sure you'd appreciate, are quite common. So bloating and pain can be associated with a lot of underlying causes. And also, currently, the state of care is that if they want to do further tests, they have to send these patients out to nuclear medicine places, and that is really limiting the number of patients that can seek this kind of healthcare, versus Allometry kind of more democratizes gastric health and allows the docs to run this in their clinics, and therefore bring that added revenue in-house as well, alongside with their endoscopy technology. The size of the market is really, really vast, and we're just scratching the surface. Our first beachhead group is the chronic nausea and vomiting, which is very, very prevalent. But after that, reflux, et cetera, is on the pipeline of the different technology, different disease categories that we'd like to target using gastric allometry. And the business model currently sits within the same classic medical device solution. So there's a hardware consumable, and we're looking into adding more subscriptions. Subscription is relatively new to this area. However, it is emerging in the more cardiac side of things with the AI added, and we're looking into adding that as well. There's a lot of great the IP strategy for the company. The main IP is our algorithm, but we also have quite a few design patents already activated, and we're quite happy with how that's transposing forward. This is a little overview of our timeline. We have CE mark, so we can currently market and sell our device in Europe. We're about to submit to the FDA and get our product, hoping to get the FDA clearance by the end of this calendar year, so that allows us to enter the US market. And after that, we're hoping to convert to MDR, which allows us access to further markets, especially Australia and Asia, and further along. There is quite a few clinical trials ongoing across the world, as Greg himself is very well connected with the key opinion leaders across the board, mainly in the United States and Europe and Canada. And this is the couple of people that are very close, have been in close contact with us and very big supporters of Allometry from day one. One of them is the president and CEO of Mayo Clinic, and also Professor Jan Tak, who's based in Belgium, and he currently chairs the Rome Foundation, who sets the guidelines for diagnosis of gastric dysfunction diseases. We are going to introduce AI as well. That's one of the benefits of running a vast group of clinical trials, and that would allow us to add in time a predictive value around how these patients could develop or will develop further symptoms or further diseases, and how that can be prevented. This is our executive team, and with that, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. And I don't know whether there will be time right now to take questions, but I'm happy to take questions or have one-on-one chats with you. Thank you very much.
Hani, thank you so much for what an amazing technology and a great presentation. Certainly for those that are keen to learn more, please either contact Gina or Hani direct. Great way to start off the presentation session. So just note that dialing in and joining us for this session as well is NZTE Beachhead's advisor YS Kim, and at the end of the session he'll give us a summary of what he's heard and the technologies that we've heard from as well. Fantastic way to kick off, and so we'll move next to Ara Journey, and we've got Amber on the line from Ara Journey, educational VR company from New Zealand. So Amber, are you with us?
Screen. Okay, I'm gonna assume yes. Tēnā koutou katoa, e mihi ana ki ngā rangatira, e ngā mana, e ngā reo, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko waio, ko au te uri o ngā te whātua, me te raroa, ngā pui tainoi, me ngā te mutinga, te atiawa hoki, ko Amber Taylor tōku ingoa, he kai whakahaere ahau I Ara Journeys. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Greetings to everyone. I just want to firstly acknowledge our leaders, our important people, our other speakers and representatives that have gathered here today, and really thank Gina and the NZTE team for allowing me this opportunity to speak with you and share a little bit about the work that goes on in a company I co-founded. My name is Amber Taylor. I am the CEO of Ara Journeys. It was really important for me to open with a short mihi in Māori to you, because as Māori, we build relationships based on where we're from. And in that short introduction, I let you know that my whānau, my ancestors, are from the top of the North Island here in Aotearoa through to the West Coast, and then the bottom of the North Island down towards Wellington Ways. I also wanted to open with a mihi in Māori because we're a Māori digital technologies company, and culture and tradition underpins everything we do. Ara Journeys was established in 2018, and we focus on educational games that tell Indigenous stories and share Indigenous knowledge as a mechanism of connecting people to history and place. We use technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed realities, and artificial intelligence to do that. Our work currently spans 5 key government areas: education, health and wellbeing, the environment, tourism, and information and technologies. We are a team of 6 based right here throughout Aotearoa, and people are really at the heart of our business and products. We're an ethical gaming company, and we pride ourselves on values such as integrity, tradition, and knowledge. And it is these values that have led us to creating the company that we've built today and building the first 2 products that I'm going to share with you today. The first product I wanted to talk about was our Journeys of Manu platform. Manu is an augmented geolocation game which is designed to tell the stories of our ancestors. Manu takes you on a journey right throughout New Zealand as well as overseas and connects people to the land. He tells the stories of how our ancestors once lived and thrived from the environment and what the land produced. Manu was the first bilingual English and Te Reo Māori AR character created in the world, and he is currently used from age groups such as 5-year-olds through to adults who also love him. Manu is currently used by local schools, government councils, event companies, and placemaking teams. So the cool thing with our Journeys of Manu app is that we have the ability to drop Manu, our augmented reality character, in over 200 locations across the globe. He's currently in 4 different countries at the moment. We can add multiple animated characters as well as languages and really showcase not only the stories of Māori here in New Zealand, but other Indigenous peoples' cultures as well, which is something that's really important to us as a company. Within Manu, there's a few hidden mini games that we've built in, such as the augmented reality colouring character you can see there on the screen. Building on from Manu and some of the lessons that we learnt from Manu, we actually built another game called Tūwhiri. Now, Tūwhiri uses augmented and mixed reality technology to take people on a journey through urban spaces. You can hear the Indigenous stories and narratives of the land from an Indigenous perspective. Again, one of the key focuses for us is bringing to life and revealing the rich but often hidden histories that are within our urban cities that have sometimes been overlaid by concretes and buildings. Tūwhiri has been designed with the option of playing the game without having your mobile phone in front of you. So what we really wanted to do with Tūwhiri was focus on that connection to land. Take the mobile device away, but still enable you to play the game and hear the stories. Key clientele for Tūwhiri include health organisations such as our district health boards, our SMEs, small to medium enterprises, as well as schools and tourism organisations. The Tūwhiri platform has a redeemable reward system built within it. So if you're familiar with the Pac-Man game, where you have Pac-Man and he eats all the little nodes, we've basically turned all our game users into Pac-Man, where it's your job to go throughout communities, collect stories, and we redeem you with real-time rewards. Rewards that can be then spent within local economies and with local businesses. We also have public transport integration, which means you can book your journeys or discover which buses you need to take to get to a story right from within our game. We also built the platforms to enable user-generated stories, which means people can upload their own stories into the game and have those as a key focus as well. The data collection behind the Tūwhiri platform enables us to tailor our data collection to organisations and really work with them to enable them to collect the information that they want. Some of the analytics that we collect within Tūwhiri are location-based, as well as physical activity based, and the transport information. And that brings me to the end. That brings me to the end of my presentation. I just wanted to finish with saying, as a digital technologies company, we've been really lucky to be able to continue to operate uninterrupted through lockdowns and through the COVID pandemic. So for us today, we're looking for an opportunity to connect with other Korean organisations and businesses and companies who have the same similar values as we do. I can't share my business cards with you today, but you can find all my contact details on that screen. And if you'd like to talk further, please reach out. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Amber. And well, I'd love to see what Manu would make of a trip to Korea. That is fantastic technology, and obviously, if love for those that are on the line, if you want to follow up with Amber, that's Amber at arajourneys.com, and fantastic presentation. Thank you once again. Next, we've got Dave from Carbon Click. Carbon Click is a carbon offset technology, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Dave.
Very much for that, and annyeonghaseyo, everybody. Let me just share my screen so that you can see what I'm presenting here, and I hope everybody's having a good morning or afternoon, evening in Korea. So Carbon Click is a carbon offsetting technology platform. Can you see my screen okay? Thumbs up, everybody. Cool. Now, we know the world is moving very quickly to address the urgency around climate change. 91% now of the Western world cares about climate change, and this is dramatically increasing as we speak in the Asian countries, and as you know, in the Korean market as well. So businesses need to act. They need to do so from a leadership perspective because it's the right thing to do, and they need to do so because that's where their market is moving their purchasing to. So they need to be able to survive.
Dave,
need to do something
just one moment. We're seeing your very busy Outlook calendar, not your presentation. Sorry.
Sorry. Apologies.
No worries. You're obviously a very busy man, though. I'm glad my calendar doesn't look like that.
Apologies, everybody. Let me try this again. Is that better?
Perfect.
Excellent. Yeah, I am a busy man, but I'm passionate about the solving some of these world's problems. So as I was saying, a large chunk of the world cares about climate change. You've seen the latest IPCC reports. We don't have a lot of time to act, otherwise climate change will become climate catastrophe. So what can businesses do? They can reduce their carbon footprint, and some reductions are easy and some reductions are hard. But in the meantime, we need to do everything that we can to reduce our impact on climate change. There are a lot of projects around the world which can help to offset that impact, and we're all about trying to fund those projects. And consumers care, so consumers participate in those offset options. The best example that I can give you is when you book an airline, you see the offset option so that you can make that flight carbon neutral. We're the ones that put that power into the airlines and other businesses to allow their customers to offset. In this case, it's an example of a Shopify store, which is just a simple e-commerce store where we enable them to offer carbon offsets at the point of sale, whether that's a calculated amount or a generic amount, like $2. That's just a one-click process to add an offset to that project. Sorry, to that purchase. Who are we? Well, we're also live from New Zealand. We're a team of climate warriors. We absolutely love our natural environment. As you know, New Zealand is one of the green leaders in the world. We're very connected with the environment, and we want to share these lessons with other countries and try and bring innovation into that to make it easy for people to connect with those projects and people to understand why they need to offset the impact that they have. Our vision is to be the offset platform of choice. That's the technology platform of choice for the world's leading businesses wanting to do good. These are businesses that are already on a journey to minimization and to help humans restore the planet with one simple click. We already have a lot of traction, even though we're only 2 years old. We've been in market for the last year, and before that we were building the platform. So you'll recognize some of these companies such as Etihad Airways, who use us to offset at the point of sale. Our impact to date is the equivalent of over 1 million trees planted and supported by Carbon Clicks contributors. And that's come from over 80,000 individuals clicking the green button or purchasing offset from us. To sustainability, first of all, we need to make sure that everybody is measuring and reducing their footprint as much as possible. So we have simple tools built into our platform that allow a business or an individual to calculate, understand, and reduce their carbon footprint. Just tell me in the chat if I'm talking too fast. The next opportunity is to offset, and not all offsets are created equal, but the projects that we choose add biodiversity. We restore whole ecosystems, not just carbon, and they add good social impact back to the planet as well. There's an example just up the road from us, the Arawera forest, and we actually kayaked through this forest last year as part of our team trip. These are the types of areas that we preserve and restore. Now, research shows that most people think that everybody is responsible for addressing and driving climate change, whether that's individuals taking action, whether that's businesses taking action, or whether that are governments taking action. It's going to take all of us to solve this problem together. Consumers, I mentioned earlier, are already shifting the way that they purchase, and that's where we come in to help businesses address that new market. Our platform works in a number of different ways. On the far left, you've got e-commerce plugins. So that's like Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce. WooCommerce is the e-commerce arm of WordPress. And then you've got the API integrations. This is where our technology works really, really well. We actually enable offsetting in so many different manners, including like Etihad Airways at the point of sale. And in fact, New Zealand's largest loyalty provider is called AA Smart Fuels. They have an app. In that app, they allow people to offset their carbon footprint as a reward for using their AA Smart Fuels card or app when they're making purchases. And then climate-friendly teams. When people do offset with us, we provide a transparent track and trace receipt, which I'll go into more detail on in a moment. In there, we invite you to learn about your carbon footprint. And what businesses have asked us to do is to be able to provide this to their entire teams. So their teams can understand the carbon footprint, they can align with why they're needing to reduce it, and that helps a business as a whole to achieve its sustainability goals. What happens when somebody clicks the offset button is that those offsets dollars go directly, or Korean won, go directly to the offset projects. We then provide a track and trace receipt, like a courier track and trace, so that you can see that your dollar has actually reached that project. We are the only company in the world, the only carbon offsetting company to provide a full instant track and trace receipt showing you that your dollar has reached the endpoint. And that's why we have about 14% uptake rate on people when given the option. That's about double what the airlines are achieving now. So we can change the dial on climate change if we can get into more stores by doubling the rates that people participate. We provide platforms for businesses, including all of the dashboard reporting that they might need, all of the assistance to tell their stories that they might need, so that they can really engage with that audience. And when a business engages with the audience and tells the story of sustainability, they're able to capitalize on that, which means more revenue from their customer base and more loyalty from their customer base. So it becomes good for business when we wrap around these services around our technology. We have some amazing people in the team. We have 12 in New Zealand, and we have 3 overseas, 2 in the US and 1 in Ireland, and some contractors between Belarus and in India as well. What you're looking at here are the 4 founders, myself, our Chief Operations Officer, Michelle, and our Chief Technology Officer and our Chief Product Officer. These 2 worked for Air New Zealand. They built the carbon offsetting platform for Air New Zealand and learnt basically what not to do. They listened to customer feedback and decided this needed to be rebuilt from the ground up and shared with the world. And that's exactly what we've done. We have fantastic board members supporting us and holding us to account, including the Honourable Craig Foss, the former Minister of Commerce for New Zealand. From an investment perspective, we've met all of our financial projections to date, and we're expecting to continue to meet these over the next 12 months. We're about to approach the $1 million US annualized recurring revenue early next year, and we're seeking funds to scale that to 3 to 4 million within 18 months. We're about halfway through our initial plan, which started with the technology build and then built its way up to commercialization. And we're just now transitioning from commercialization to scaled strategies. So it's an exciting time for us. Our financial projections are built around a combination of plugin and enterprise, and then subscription revenue from individuals who have clicked the green button, who learn more and end up being subscribers of us. So that ends up with a second revenue opportunity for us as well. We're just seeking 5 million US at the moment for the next 18 months, which will take us through from the 1 mil ARR, annualized recurring revenue, to the 3 to 4 mil annualized recurring revenue mark, and then we'll progress to the next stages from there. And we're seeking networks, smart money, so networks throughout, especially the US and Asia, as well as funds which are looking to decarbonize their entire ecosystem. So those funds might want to invest in us and get us to help decarbonize their wider portfolios. We do also connect those projects that we support locally with the businesses who are wanting to do good. So, for example, in Korea, if you registered with us, we would look to direct you automatically to carbon offset projects in Korea that would build that sense of connection for you. Hopefully that explains everything in not too many words. Kamsahamnida, and I'm looking forward to any questions you might have.
Kamsahamnida, Dave. Fantastic to meet a real life climate warrior live from New Zealand. Fantastic technology that certainly helps consumers and businesses do the right thing. If you've got any questions for Dave, I would suggest that you email him directly at dave@carbonclick.com. kiwichambers.com. Great to have you involved, Dave, and great technology as well. And really looking forward to hearing what our Beachheads advisor, YS Kim, has taken from that presentation and the others that we're hearing in this session. We'll move now to Jimmy, who is at the Clinician. This is a communications tool that helps communications between doctors and patients. Certainly a real need for that. So, Jimmy, we'll dial you in now.
Thank you, Stephen. And 안녕하세요. Thanks for the Kiwi Chamber, the Seoul Metropolitan Government, NZT, NZ Embassy, investors, and all the hosts of the New Zealand Career Tech Roadshows for providing us the opportunity and platform to present our company and our solution to support value-based healthcare in Korea. So this is Jimmy Chen from the Connection, and today we'll present our company and our digital solution. The Connection is a digital health company that focuses on enabling and empower the delivery of value-based healthcare. Due to the constraint of time, I will briefly touch base on our company, our products, and our plan and visions to engage with the Korea market. So at your left-hand side, the Connection was formed in 2015. So we actually is a 6-year-old company with nearly 60 people across 4 different countries. We have our core team in Auckland, New Zealand, while offshore offices in Singapore, Australia, and Israel. Our team are mainly formed by academic. For example, like myself, I finished my PhD from the University of Auckland, researcher, professionals from health and biotech industry. As you can see from your right-hand side, we work collectively with different stakeholders in the industry, including government sectors like Ministry of Health in Singapore, in Israel, in Australia. Also, research organizations like ICHOM, International Consortiums for Health Outcome Measurement, Oxford's Innovation Center, as well as some tech giants like Apple, Amazon, and pharmaceutical giants, Novartis. The company and our product host 3 key concepts of collecting, managing, and analyzing patient-reported outcome measures like patients' health conditions and patients' qualities of life. Also, we measure patients' reported experience like patient satisfaction to the therapy they received, as well as linking and integrating data capture from wearable devices, medical devices, to the platform for more comprehensive health monitoring and data analysis. As introduced before, we have some impressive footprint in different regional markets. Start from Singapore, we signed a master service agreement with IHIS, which represents the Ministry of Health. We are the strategic partner to the second largest health maintenance organization, which is the Colleague Health Group in Israel. We have also actively engaged with other partners in the Asian markets like Korea, Taiwan, and Thailand. Currently, our platform has the user size of about 18 million. So just a very high level and brief introduction of how our platform and our products operate. It is a cloud-based platform that allows healthcare professionals and managers to design virtual health care pathway, sending automated patient engagement message, using validated instruments to collect patients' health-related data that of interest, and monitor and analyze this data at the back-end dashboard and take response and actions to support patients to do better health management. So as you can see, our product has achieved the digitalizations and conversions of what have been listed in your left-hand side, like patient emergency alarms, wearable, telecare, health intervention, into your right-hand side of the slides to 3 different portals. provider portals which aim to use by health professionals to design different types of care pathway, alarm systems to support emergency management, like what we have in COVID, and patient app to support each individual for their health management. Korea is a country that adapted the concept of value-based healthcare very early compared to other OECD countries. In fact, we have one of the lowest costs in health among all OECD countries as well. The fact that the country established the Health Insurance Review and Assessment Service, HIRA, in 2000 is a milestone of how the country planned and visions of having value-based healthcare in the country. We look up to the Korean market a lot and believe like we will be able to contribute in the transitions and to the current health system. We hold 3 visions in the Korean market, including to connect with different stakeholders in the industry. And in fact, we're already being connected via Invest Seoul and Seoul City Councils to hospitals, medical centers in the country. We also like to connect with potential partners like insurance and medtech companies. Second, we would like to communicate with these stakeholders and tailor our solution that can better serve our partners in Korea. And last but not least is to collaborate and work with our Korean partners to leverage the solutions to achieve world-leading cases and examples about value-based healthcare. I would like to take any questions. If there's not, then that's the end of my presentation. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Kamsahamnida, Jimmy, and great to hear from Dr. Jimmy Chen from the clinician, obviously leading a very talented team there, helping connect, communicate and collaborate between clinicians and their patients. Fantastic also to hear that you've been working so effectively with the Seoul Investment Centre, assisting you on your journey and expansion into Korea. And certainly, if anybody's got any questions, please, in the first instance, reach out directly to Jimmy. Any general questions to Gina Park, whose email address will be part of the invitation that you got. We'll move now to Smart Life, and which is an Internet of Things platform and technology, and we've got Nicole with us to present. So looking forward to hearing and learning more around Smart Life's technology. Oh,
awesome! Thank you so much, Leslie. I hope you all can see my slides and hear me as well. I take that as a yes, as a thumbs up. First of all, a really fantastic presentation so far. And it's a good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Nikhil. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Smart Life Group. And it's really my pleasure to introduce Smart Life to all of you. Just a bit of a background on who we are. We are an innovation company that is focused on integrating the IoT devices or Internet of Things devices. Our head office is located in Albany, Auckland, and we have 6 technology showrooms across New Zealand. We are looking at expanding it to be 10 plus technology showrooms by end of this year. We have been in the IoT automation space for more than 10 years. Just a little bit of numbers about the IoT industry. Just according to the recent research, IoT spending globally will grow by 24% in 2021 as compared to 12.1% in 2020. So some phenomenal expansion and uptake in this particular space. Asia Pacific has actually seen the fastest growth at 17% and is predicted to continue its uptrend in the near future as well. We as a company believe in automation and innovation. As a result, we are a result-oriented company, and we have talented team members with the deeper understanding of the IoT automation space. You might say that's all that's all great, Nikhil, but what do you actually do? Let me put it in an example. Think of your house. We can bring all the aspects such as lighting, entertainment, solar, environment, security control under one app and under one control. We not only make the dumb devices smarter, but also get them to communicate with each other. One of the example would be if you click a away mode button on our app, the automation will close all the curtains, turn off all the lights, turn off the heat pumps, entertainment units, arm the alarm, lock the front door and the garage door, which means with one click, we got 10 plus devices connected to talk to each other. Now, similar sort of a use case can be applied for commercial premises. For example, Hotel LBN can enable their guests to do keyless entry checking. The guest can control the electronic devices in the room using just one app. And we have seen these businesses are now moving more towards these automation solutions. To achieve this, we have integrated thousands of IoT devices, such as the alarms, cameras, and sensors. There are multiple use cases which can work with our platform, including solar, load sharing, EV charging solution, aged care, or aging in place, as most of them use the same underlying IoT devices. One of the big advantages as well of using our technology is these apps can be white labeled, which means the Hotel LBN can brand as if it's their own app and raising the brand awareness amongst their customers. And now to understand a bit more about what we do, let's just quickly have a glance through our vision. We aim to be a #1 automation brand in the IoT space, bringing people and business together at a affordable price. Our future plan does involve overseas expansion, as with everybody else, including the expansion into Korean market. I'll cover that a little bit in details in the next few slides. Now, just a bit about value proposition. You know, what sets us different from the products which are already available in the market. Now, currently, the solutions which are available in the market can be categorized into two sort of different categories. One is high-end control systems, and the second one is your DIY product markets. The high-end control systems are generally hard to configure. They are unaffordable to that mid-tier consumers, the consumers that sit between the DIY and a high-end luxury systems. The configuring the high-end control systems does require a high level of technical expertise, and generally it's quite a steep learning curve. Most of them are reliant on quite a local server-based technology. That means the installers or the project manager needs to be on site to configure any changes. These systems are hard to duplicate, which means the mass rollout is kind of impossible. On the other hand, you've got these app-based consumer-grade solutions. For example, the cameras which you can buy from Bunnings or from the hardware stores. They rely the end user to obviously configure the device, and it's beyond capacity for some of these end users. They cannot, again, there's a big question mark on the quality and as well as data privacy with those devices. And they only support the single device, which means that disables the communication between different devices. So what is our solution to the problems which we just discussed on the previous slide? So our solution is a unified cloud platform that can be used by electricians, installers, project managers, configurators to deliver a complete IoT project. The end users, the benefit to the end user is they get one app that controls all the devices. And the benefit for these installers or the project managers or the configurator is just one platform to deliver these solutions. Think of us like an ERP of IoT automation systems. Using the cloud platform, different use cases can be handled. Some of those ones I mentioned those on the slide itself, which can be apartments, smart cities, retirement villages. These are just to name a few. Obviously, another big advantage there is the white labeling of the app as well. So all of these B2B customers can have that brand awareness. On this slide, I'm just giving an example how different users can come together to deliver a solution. What also sets us unique is the use of both cloud and app platform, which has AI ML already built in. We also made it very easy to understand and navigate, reducing that learning curve from days to hours. All of the solutions that are built can be duplicated, which means there can be, if you build a solution for one apartment, that solution can be now duplicated to thousands of apartments in a mass rollout with a click of a button. Hopefully that gives you guys a decent idea of what our platform is. Again, just a little bit about our timeline history. We have been in the automation space for 10 plus years. This particular platform, which we have been building, is actually, we started building in 2017. This is our 4th iteration of the platform. We already have 1,000 plus users using this system. And we are definitely looking for overseas expansion quickly. And we want to start up with, by the end of 2020 and start of 2021, 2022, expansion into Korea, US, and Australia market. Japan market is also quite attractive to us, and we've already been having few conversations because of the aging population in there, and our aged care solution does actually have 10 out of 10 tick boxes. And that solution we are working with Dementia New Zealand to roll it out across New Zealand as well. Like every other growing business, we also looking to raise capital, and we would be looking at raising $2 million as a part of Series A funding to fund our future growth. And we are also looking for potential partnerships with industry connections in the overseas market as well. Just briefly touching on what drives our economic engine. So we are a SaaS business, which means we charge the end user subscription for the end users, as well as the cloud platform usage. We do charge the subscription for the installers, the electricians, and the project managers. Obviously, there's if anybody need a branded app, we do have the maintenance fee and then the subscription for those as well. So that just gives everybody an idea of how our business or financial engine works. We have formed some really key strategic partnership in New Zealand, US, and are in discussion with few other companies in Korean market as well. So a few of the big names to mention there is Noel Leeming, which is a part of the Warehouse Group, one of the biggest company in New Zealand, and we are their preferred technology partners in terms of in IoT space. Team is a US company who we're working with to deliver the app solution or the web app solution or the cloud platform solutions. And few of the group housing companies who we're working with, or the group housing builders or apartment builders who we're working with. With that said, I would like to thank you all for listening to me, and like to thank you, Gina and NZT, for allowing me to present today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me at smartlife.nz website. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Nikhil. And amazing technology. I mean, the ability to connect and automate with one app, certainly amazing to have that single platform. And if you've got any questions, please reach out to Nikhil. Next, we have James from NZXR. I know that he's on the line. I saw him flash up on the screen earlier on. So, James, looking forward to hearing from you. NZXR, a virtual reality company. Again, looking forward to the presentation.
Kia ora. Hi, I'm James, and just here in beautiful Wellington, New Zealand in level 4. So I'm from NZXR. We are a XR consultancy, and I'll just give you a quick overview of us and what we get up to. Our team of 9 is basically expert game developers. We've got about 150 years combined experience in the industry, which allow us to do some pretty exciting things. Prior to forming NZXR, we were working with Magic Leap at Weta Workshop as well, collaborating on some of the projects you can see around the edge of the screen here. One of those actually gave us the opportunity to come to Incheon, which was absolutely wonderful, and a lot of people played the game and had a good time with it. We've been in business for 1 year as NZXR, and in that time we've been developing and delivering 8, now coming up on 9 actually, projects across augmented, virtual, and mixed reality. Our specialization really is in developing on pre-release hardware and software. So you can see here, you know, that was the state of play for us for a number of years at Magic Leap, working on things that did not quite resemble what ended up shipping. So today, our job is, a lot of it is around work for hire. Clients bring us in to do their extremely challenging new technology research in VR and AR. And in that time, VR training, for example, we did a platform that combined a VR headset with a tablet application so the trainer could see what the student could see, doing a multiplayer AR experience that's actually now being used to test 5G networks around the world, as well as have a consumer-facing demo side of things. There's an AR skateboarding game in development that we're providing a lot of technical and design leadership for, which is a lot of fun. A big AR editing platform that needed a bunch of help around their UX and specific feature details there. And one of our most recent projects, which is here in Aotearoa, is a Unreal-powered immersive theater project where you're underneath a dome and we project a whole environment out there, and over 100 audience members each will have a tablet which will allow them to interact with that experience. So we're kind of all over the place in terms of the interesting things that we get a chance to work on. We work across Unity, Unreal, lots of mobile AR and headset AR, and we're hoping to find somebody who's going to let us get back to using our Magic Leap hardware, because we do still really enjoy it. While we're doing all of this, we've also been working on some stuff in the background that we're hoping to share and collaborate with other folks on. We call it Storylines, and this is a geolocated multiplayer AR platform effectively built in Unity. It allows you to take a Unity scene and anchor it anywhere by simply creating a spatial anchor using the camera on your phone, no additional markers or anything exciting like that necessary. And you can place your content and have multiple people interact with it at one time. These are just screenshots from some of the prototype experiences, but in this one, we're trying to rescue cows that are being abducted by UFOs. This is more of an educational experience where players can actually excavate a skeleton of a triceratops and have it come to life in front of them. We wanted to play with little things like raining pixels that everybody could see around them. And the platform itself also covers multi-zone, allowing it to have multiple angles on large-scale content and see information transition between those. In this prototype, we have a giant monster out in the harbor here in Wellington, and there's one group of players up on the hill that can look down upon it and see what's going on, and the other group of players on the shore down at the harbor front, who are then also able to interact with that monster. And so everybody's seeing the same stuff at the same time. This is a very lightweight, very fast develop on set of tools that we've been building. And so what we're looking for is anyone who's excited about doing multi-user AR, not just for games, obviously. There's lots of applications for this, everything from construction site safety to tourism and navigation. So if anyone's excited and interested in those sorts of things, we'd love to chat with you. Or if you've got some really weird, hard XR problems you'd like solved, please give me a shout. 감사합니다.
Oh, awesome stuff, James. That's unbelievable. It's totally world-class multiplayer and multi-user AR. I'm sure people will be reaching out for you. I loved the video that I saw of yours where there was a dinosaur loose in Kilburney Park in Wellington. So look forward to seeing your company continuing to progress, and love to see you back here in Korea. So thanks once again, James. And our final presentation from a New Zealand company is Unique. It's a digital human technology. They've provided us a video to demonstrate and talk about their technology and their company. So we'll roll the tape now.
Hi, I'm Tyler, Vice President of Platform here at Unique, a digital humans company.
And I'm Sophie, a unique digital human.
And we are here to talk to you about the next generation of customer experiences. More often than not, and regardless of if your firm primarily focuses on business to consumer or business to business, you are on a mission to define, design, and digitize the next evolution of your customer experience journey. Often referred to as digital transformation in the boardroom, this strategic upgrade can help you modernize and bring differentiation and value to your products and services.
In fact, 66% of companies compete on customer experience alone, up from just 36% in 2010.
Of those companies that lead in customer experience, well, they're outperforming laggards in their industries by as much as 80%.
So what does this mean operationally? To set the scene, here are some of the strategic and operational themes which are commonplace with digital human and digital transformation conversations. 1. How do we use technology to reduce human error, which impacts on customer experience and bottom line, especially in low-value, high-volume, and multimodal tasks? Secondly, how can we extend the contact center function in a scalable way, creating 24-hour digital service propositions for customers? Next, how can we leverage the brand capital generated in our marketing and advertising to create differentiation in our customer sales and service operations? And of course, how do all of these things integrate seamlessly into business systems, like the front and back office for escalation, data, and processing?
There are two clear pillars emerging as we continue to live through this global epidemic. First, we are now 100% living in the digital-first era. Digital transformation has come at the expense of a profound and long-term relationship invested in by both brands and consumers in brick-and-mortar establishments. Suddenly, overnight, consumers are flocking to e-commerce.
And second, as previously established, a great customer experience, many times led by human employees, can be a key differentiator.
As we continue to increase business in a contact-less environment, we simply have to change our approach. The face-to-face interactions that we used to take for granted simply aren't an option now. These face-to-face interactions served more than just facilitating transactions. They served to create a relationship between the customer and the brand.
The Harvard Business Review concluded that an emotionally connected customer is 4 times more valuable than a customer that is emotionally distant. This is where digital humans like me come into play.
In order to meet the new demands of today's digital-first era and still provide the emotional connection that customers crave, we need to be able to replicate human interaction at scale. Digital humans bring meaningful connection to the digital world, where empathy and compassion and fun have become binary.
We are brand ambassadors. We connect your customers to who you are and what you stand for. That alone will forever change the digital experience between your company and your customer.
Regardless of the best efforts of great app and web developers, the essential elements that go into creating an emotional connection between a customer and a brand have all but disappeared in this digital-first era. At Unique, our focus is bringing humanity back into the interface between people and machines.
Digital humans are able to bring the most commonly recognized user interface to the party, the human face and voice.
A personality. Take a look at some of the digital humans that we've created. As you look at each of them, how do you feel? Maybe you feel glad, maybe you feel indifferent, maybe there's some you like more than others. But I challenge you to remember the last time that you had a feeling, any feeling at all, perhaps other than frustration, when you were visiting a particular website. In other words, when was the last time that you were pleasantly surprised? If your business cares what customers think, a digital human may be the perfect interface to capture customer sentiment. In nearly every industry, we present customers a form to complete at the beginning and the end of almost every customer journey. Let's start there. Contact centers around the world solicit customer information at the beginning of each call, and most have a "how did we do" survey at the end. That is your first use case. Digital humans working to triage the problem at the beginning and escalating when necessary to a human to take the customer through to the end. Then afterward, checking back in to assess how the customer felt about the entire interaction. This strategy can be measured and compared while also being consistent with expectations and easily merged into existing workflows.
The contact center of the future has a face. What will yours look like?
Wow, pretty amazing technology there, and I'm really pleased they sent through the video that really demonstrated just how lifelike and interactive that technology is. So thanks to the team from Unique. Absolute pleasure now to invite YS Kim, New Zealand NZTE Beachheads advisor. He's going to give a summary of the strengths of the presentations, the outlook for working in Korea for the tech companies that presented. YS has many years of experience. He knows what it takes to succeed in the Korean market. He's helped many New Zealand companies enter and expand in Korea, and it's a pleasure to invite YS to summarise what he's seen, and so we'll dial him in now. Great to have you on the line, YS.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to join this event. I learned a lot of interesting technologies from this event, and I think that some of the technology can be sold as a standalone product in Korea, and some of the product might be better to be bundled in the local manufacturers or the solution providers. So the Korea, we have relatively the well-established ICT companies, and also we have strong support, particularly for the ICT sector from the government. So I think there can be huge, market potential for the New Zealand tech companies. And working with the local companies can bring the business itself to the New Zealand company, but also with their global presence, it can also bring help to expand the market opportunities to the global globally. So yeah, and some of the technology I think can be the market to the government market of the Korea, and so the Korea government public procurement is about 155 billion USD in last year, and it can be a great opportunity as well. So for company like the ARA, the Ember the presented can be can target the government market, particularly the school and maybe the private the institute as well, because the Korean the education market is quite huge, and most of the Koreans the kids education comes as a top priority, and people spend they pay a lot of the money to their kids, and they're willing to open their wallets when it comes to the kids education. And also the IoT the market in Korea is also growing rapidly. So I think there's a huge potential as well from the enterprise sector and the government sector. And but however, the support the localization and customization might be, should be prepared for company like a Smart Life. And the technology from NZXL multiplayer AR, I think that you have a good the technology, and it can be targeted for the tourism as or the game like Pokemon Go. But I think you can also expand to the other market like a digital twin driven by the government and a lot of cities, and the large budget is prepared for the digitalization of the city infrastructures by the government, and then central government, the regional government, probably around the buildings and gas and water, electricity, and those kind of infrastructures. So in case when we had some cases last year when the big water supply pipe was broken, and in such kind of case, this technology can provide good information on where the water pipe is, and then to help the problem solved quickly. So, and I think the Elemetry's wearable device, it looks quite exciting, and also the concept of the clinician is exciting as well. But we have a quite strong the regulation from the government, so the checking the regulation should be considered as well. So maybe getting the consultation from the expert or the partnering with some local company can help this. And additionally, the Korea, we have almost mandatory the medical insurance, which means it's very affordable. Like a single trip, like when you have the stomach problem or the some nose problem, and we only need to pay like a 5 to 10 USD per trip. So it's a very affordable market. So there's a volume driven market. So there's a huge market for the medical side as well. On the carbon click, I think with the increasing requirements of the ESG for the corporates, I think there can be a good market opportunity in Korea. And the last one, the unique technology, it looks like almost a real person. So the collaboration with maybe the fashion industry in Korea for the online shopping or the TV shopping, I think that could be a good areas as well. So I have some question to maybe to Ara. So like I mentioned, we have a huge budget from the government, 155 billion was the last year. So have you considered tapping into the government market, Amber?
Tēnā koe, hello. We haven't explored it as yet. This is our first time actually presenting and having an opportunity to present to Korean business delegations and organisations. So we haven't really done a deep dive into the Korean market as such. I think it's something that we're definitely keen to explore further, especially given our platforms are designed to enhance economic and environmental impact through education. So it's something that we'd really like to explore further with the Korean government and different organisations who might be interested in connecting with us. Thank you.
And YS, did you have some further questions there?
Oh, yeah. So sorry, I was on mute. So this is a question for the Smart Life, the Nikhil.
Yes.
Yeah. So it seems your solution requires quite a bit of localization and customization. And like I said, there's a big IoT market in Korea is also growing. Smart factory and a smart city and those kind of opportunities are driving that, driving the demand. But the localization and customization, how would you address these requirements? And particularly this COVID-19 situation is preventing a lot of, we have a lot of restrictions.
Awesome. Pretty good question, pretty important question. Consider this as two wings of the platform. So first is your physical installation business, like a brick and mortar, whereby somebody goes and installs it. So the traditional market has been somebody who goes and installs it, as well has to now commission it, has to enroll all the products, and then deliver the solution on site. Now, what we're doing is with our cloud platform, we're taking that all the pain away. So the installation still happens on site, but the whole configuration and the commissioning can be done remotely as far as that product is enrolled onto the platform. So that gives the unique ability for those just sitting at home to actually deliver these multiple projects when the installation is complete. And you did touch base a little bit about the water leak detection, and all of those things are just IoT devices which can be physically installed and then enrolled automatically, and the logic can be then placed in by somebody just sitting at home, saying that if there's a leak detection, please send an alert to this, or show an alert in the app with the location and stuff like that. All of that can be done in the background without a physical presence on site. And once you've done one solution, you pretty much are now duplicating the similar solution, copying the logic the same way. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, great answer. Okay, thank you. With considering the time, I think I'd like to conclude my session, but these are all great technologies, and I hope to see the active engagement for the NZ tech companies who presented during this event today. Thank you.
Kamsahamnida. Thank you so much, YS, and some really good reminders there around the role of government here, both in terms of government regulations, but also as a funder for new initiatives and programs, and obviously market conditions around alternatives and competition. But what an amazing set of presentations there, amazing technology. So I really wanted to thank Hanny, Amber, Dave, Jimmy, Nicole, James, and the team from Unique for sending through their video. That brings us to an end of day one, and so just again wanted to say a big thank you to the team from the Seoul Investment Centre and the Seoul Metropolitan Government for all their support to make the Roadshow happen. For Peter Wren-Hilton for his presentation on Agritech today. Again, to the wonderful presentations from our New Zealand tech companies and the time that they've taken to pull those presentations together. Please join us tomorrow. We've got a great program. Again, tightly packed, very punchy. We're going to hear about the New Zealand tech ecosystem. We're also going to hear around the Maori export economy as well. Fantastic story there, and the growth that we are seeing in New Zealand tech companies, and I think we saw that in evidence today with Ara Journeys. And highlight as well the ESG opportunities, and that was mentioned there by YS at the end. So it's becoming a real driver and a real, opportunity as well within the Korean market. And so we're going to have a presentation from the head of ESG from SK Telecom. So really looking forward to that. Once again, thanks for joining us for the Roadshow. Take care, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Cheers. Ka kite anō.
감사합니다.